Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world. On Newsfeed today, 57 nations take Myanmar to court over its treatment of Rohingya Muslims. Fires burn out of control in Australia. We hear from a man who spent decades fighting them. A whole new level of violence in the Hong Kong protests. And a little animal makes a big comeback in Animals Doing Stuff. And at the top of our newsfeed, genocide in Myanmar. The Organisation of Islamic Cooperation has launched a historic bit of legal action against the state. The group of Muslim-majority countries is accusing the Myanmar government and its military of genocide for their treatment of the Rohingya. Yash has all the detail.
57 nations are taking Myanmar to the International Court of Justice. It's the first judicial scrutiny of Myanmar's campaign against Rohingya Muslims. The case accuses the government and military of extreme violence that's led to the exodus of at least 750,000 people. Most have fled to Bangladesh and are living in refugee camps like this one in Cox's Bazar. Led by Gambia, members of the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation say Myanmar's actions against the Rohingya constitute genocide.
It is a shame for our generation that we do nothing while genocide is unfolding right before our own eyes. And so we are sending a message that it doesn't take a country with economic or military power to speak out and speak up against injustice anywhere around the world.
It follows a damning United Nations report released last year detailing indiscriminate killings, gang rapes, child abuse and torching of entire villages. Myanmar denies its troops carried out such crimes, claiming it only targets insurgent threats. In September, a member of the mission said Myanmar's government was in control of the operation.
They run the courts, they run the prosecution service. The longer this goes on, the more impossible it is for the civilian side of the government to escape international criminal responsibility for the human rights situation in Myanmar.
The motion asked the International Court of Justice to implement an injunction to ensure Myanmar stops genocide against its own Rohingya people. It comes just a few weeks after the UN warned the violent campaign against the Rohingya is continuing in northwest Myanmar, calling for the UN Security Council to refer Myanmar officials to the International Criminal Court. That's unlikely to succeed, not least because China, being an ally of the Myanmar government, would likely veto the move, and that Myanmar has not signed the treaty recognizing the ICC. Myanmar has dismissed the lawsuit, calling it a politically motivated international pressure tactic. However, many on Twitter have welcomed it, with Human Rights Watch describing the move as inspiring. Some are now asking the OIC to turn its attention to the plight of the Uyghur Muslims facing persecution in China. The International Court of Justice will now consider the case.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. An app called Like Patrol, which allowed people to see and pay a fee and find out which of their followers had liked their pictures on Instagram, has been removed from the App Store. Designers of the app say they'll make the software open source, which will allow anyone to recreate it if they so choose. Now, Instagram has been trying to make itself a less toxic space by removing some of its features recently. It hid likes on people's photos to try and remove the incentive that users feel to post content to get validation from others who may or may not be their friends. The Prime Minister of Poland sent this tweet to the boss of streaming service Netflix. In it, Mateusz Morawiecki takes exception to a map shown in a new Netflix documentary called Devil Next Door. It's about the death camps run by Nazi Germany during World War II. The map, Prime Minister Morawiecki says, shows the death camps located in Poland, and he points out that Poland was actually occupied from 1939 to 1945, so the map may give the incorrect impression that Poland was somehow responsible for the camps when Nazi Germany actually was. Netflix says it's received the complaint and is urgently looking into the matter. The BBC has apologised for showing old footage of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He laid a wreath upside down during the War Remembrance ceremony in London on Sunday. And of course, he was mocked on social media for it. In the BBC's coverage of the ceremony on Monday morning, it used old footage of Johnson from 2016 when he laid a wreath correctly. The broadcaster says it was a production error, which is code for one of our producers made a mistake. However, the internet has more conspiratorial theories about how it all happened. And the wait is over. New Zealand's Bird of the Year has been announced. Exciting. And it is this thing, the hoiho. The hoiho. It's a kind of penguin, a rare and rather endangered one, as it turns out. It's just 65 centimeters tall and weighs 5 kgs. Now, these little guys are apparently antisocial and like to communicate by screaming. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has praised the bird's victory, even though her favourite is the black petrel. Now, bushfires in Australia continue to threaten life and property. They are raging out of control and burning up vast tracts of land. We spoke to Craig Lapsley, an emergency management advisor and the former emergency commissioner for the state of Victoria. He says these type of fires have emerged over the past few years and are unusual as they still burn fiercely at night.
They're in drought, so they've got dry conditions, dry fuel, dry forest, dry grass, and no water. And then you bring a catastrophic fire day along, which is hot, windy, dry, and they expect the winds to be quite erratic in the afternoon. It tells you that you've got a recipe for absolute disaster. It's been a very long run, a very dry period, and now you've got that recipe where you've got the hottest, the driest, and the windiest day all happening at the one time. With climate change, it's going to see that we're going to see more frequent weather events that are intense. And that means the hot will be hotter and the wet will be wetter. It is not seasonal for New South Wales to have this sort of weather in July, August, September, October and now November. But I think the normal now is becoming the abnormal. So I think we're going to see longer fire seasons. And in those longer fire seasons, we'll see more frequent and more intense fires due to weather conditions. I think it's also worth noting that this year in Australia's winter period, you saw fires in Alaska that were of significance. And other parts of the world. It's a phenomenon that is seen and is growing from what have been traditional countries like Chile or Greece, Australia and California, to now see places that you wouldn't expect to see significant fires, and Alaska was one of those this year that showed that they had significant bushfires burning in there in what would normally be a non-bushfire area. So you've got Northern Europe, you've got Russia, you've got Alaska, you've got the very northern part of the northern hemisphere that's had significant fire already this year.
And next, more than 5 months of violence in Hong Kong worsened in the last few days, and there seems to be no sign the city is going to be a normal place anytime soon.
啲嘅，俾政府聽到我哋啲聲音咧，其實啲細型嗰啲集會咧，我覺得咧冇乜用咯，佢聽唔到啊嘛。
If there is still any wishful thinking that by escalating violence the Hong Kong SAR government will yield to pressure to satisfy the so-called political demands. I'm making this statement clear and loud here. That will not happen.
Okay, let's keep spinning around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Tuesday. The IT giant Microsoft is going to America's Supreme Court to protect its employees who came to the country as children as undocumented migrants. They're known as dreamers in the United States, and their status is very political. President Obama tried to protect them from deportation through the DACA program. President Trump wants to tear that program up. A report on how members of the G20, that's the group of 20 major world economies, are sticking to their promises to reduce carbon emissions is out. And interestingly, it shows that India is the only nation even close to sticking to the increased cap of 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's the temperature threshold that science says we need to not breach if we're to avoid an even worse climate crisis than we're already experiencing. And things like this are adding to the ongoing disaster. These are the Pantanal wetlands in Brazil, and as you can see, they're on fire. Like the Amazon fires a month or so ago, they've broken records with their size and scope. 15,000 square kilometers, that's like 2.8 million football fields, have gone up in flames since August. And just like the Amazon, most of them are started by local farmers to clear bush for agribusiness and development. And climate change in terms of sea levels rising are about to make a bad situation even worse. After World War II, the United States carried out 67 nuclear bomb tests in the Marshall Islands, that's in the Pacific near Hawaii. Then those scientists and nuclear experts and defense analysts stored all the radioactive waste material in what was ominously called the tomb. Well, now the LA Times is reporting that the tomb is breaking open due to the effects of the changing planet. The paper says the Marshall Islands has asked the Trump administration to help secure the site. In response, the US government officials have apparently said the deadly material is on land belonging to the Marshall Islands, so it's not their problem. Well, to the occupied territories now for the story of a man who spends some of his time caring for cats. Take a look.
إن جميع الطيور والقطط تجتمع فقط حين بس يعلم أني قد دخلت إلى المسجد الأقصى المبارك. ذلك الفضل من الله، وأفعل ذلك الشيء أكثر من 20 عام. كان بالأول يعني كنت أحضر السكاكر والطعام والحلوى للكبار السن، يعني وأنا يعني تعودت بعون الله من هذا الباب. كنت يعني كل من يلاقيني كان كبير السن أو ولد أو أي حتى إنسان يأتي إلى المسجد الأقصى كنت أعطيه شيئا يعني من الحلوى. ثم يعني انتقلنا كما أنت يعني كما شاهدت الآن يعني القطط والعصافير والحمام وكل هذه الأشياء.
And last thing today, we have an animal doing stuff for you, and what this thing has been doing is hiding in the woods for 30 years. That is until now. This is a silverback Chevrotain, more prosaically known as the mouse deer. And you're looking at the first video footage that was recorded in nearly 3 decades. This was shot in Vietnam, where it was thought that the animal had become extinct. They're the world's smallest ungulate, which the internet tells me are animals with hooves. The scientists who recorded this video say they're developing strategies to protect these little guys, starting with not losing them again. And that will do from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel and you can follow me on Twitter. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again soon.